Good morning, and welcome to Unity of Bellevue's online celebration service. We're so grateful that you're joining us this morning. My name is Susan Neidig. I'm one of the prayer chaplains here at Unity of Bellevue. So our beloved Reverend Marla continues to rest and recharge on sabbatical for another 4 weeks. Please continue to pray for her, knowing her wholeness, perfect health, and ease. She'll return to work on September 7th, and we will see her right here at our celebration service on September 13th. So here at Unity, we are about waking up. We are about expressing God's love through us and as us. Even as we are all separated in time and space, we are one with each other and one with God. There is no separate. There is no other. There is only one. This month, we are enjoying a speaker musician series. The book of the month is Rising Strong by Brene Brown. So here's what's happening today. Monica McDowell-Elvick and I will be presiding over the service. And Becca will be introducing our guest speaker musician this morning. Becca?
Thank you, Susan. So many of us have admired for a long time the work of today's speaker musician, and only recently during this virtual time together have I personally had the opportunity to connect. And this gentleman is notably warm and clear and kind. It's a true pleasure for me to read the bio for and to introduce our presenter today, Reverend David Ault. For over 30 years, David Ault has been a prophetic voice in the human potential movement. As an unwavering crusader for mindfulness, global literacy, and social justice. Whether through teaching, evolutionary coaching, and keynote presentations, David's singular intention has always been in bridging our collective forgetfulness into our great collective awakening. As an award-winning author, a New Thought minister, and global education advocate, he loves leading through example and abides by the motto that people would rather see a lesson than hear one. David is the founder of Kaleidoscope Child Foundation, whose mission is to advance vulnerable children and communities worldwide with sustainable education, life skills, and fresh water. Beginning in 2004, Kaleidoscope now operates schools in Siem Reap, Cambodia, Bodh Gaya, and Lakhanpur, India, and partners with literacy programs throughout Guatemala, serving more than 1,000 children annually. In a minute, we'll get to hear David speak, and for now, would you bless us with some music? David Ault.
Good morning, everyone. You are the sacred one in this sacred time, no beginning and no end. Holding up the light for all to see, heart and mind now freely blend, fully honoring the gifts you bring to a world that now believes. You are the sacred one in this sacred time. Welcome home, my sacred friend. I am the sacred one in this sacred time, no beginning and no end. Holding up the light for all to see, heart and mind now freely blend, fully honoring the gifts I bring to a world that now believes. I am the sacred one in this sacred time. Welcome home, my sacred friend. And we are the sacred ones in this sacred time. No beginning and no end. Holding up the light for all to see. Heart and mind now freely blend, fully honoring the gifts we bring to a world that now believes we are the sacred one in this sacred time. Welcome home, my sacred friend. We are the sacred ones in this sacred time. Welcome home, my sacred friend.
Thank you, David. We are the sacred one in this sacred time. So join with me as we turn within in this moment. We give thanks to the great presence that is never an absence. And in this moment of gratitude and thanksgiving, we become more aware of that presence that we call God. God the good, God the one life, the one mind that lives and breathes us all. The source of all abundance, peace, grace, joy, love, and all that is good. We anchor in the one life, confident that all is well. We allow ourselves to be lifted in consciousness, knowing that there is no separate, no other. We are one with God's love. Peace of mind reigns supreme. Joy abounds. Clarity of well-being is ours right now as we are filled with thanksgiving and gratitude for life. I give thanks for the technology that allows the gathering of this spiritual community. I give thanks for the music, the message, and the people who are gathered in this virtual space. I open this service with a grateful heart and let it unfold, knowing that we are open and receive this message. We are receptive to the truth expressed here today. And I call it good and very good. And so it is. Amen. On the screen, you will see in a moment our affirmation for today. I'll give you a moment to read it silently, and then we'll read it together. So let's declare this truth together with conviction. I am one with the living one. This indwelling presence is alive, alert, and awake within me. And I open my heart to its divine expression. I live in this promise of unity for myself and for everyone around me, actively creating a life that works for me. I confidently contribute to creating a world that works for everyone. And so it is.
So I believe, Susan, is it my time to come in?
Yes, it is. Sorry, David. Yes.
Thank you.
Please bless us with another song.
Oh, thank you. I just want to pause real quickly and give great gratitude to Becca and for the opportunity to be able to join you. I live in Atlanta. I'm right now in Michigan, and I'm with you in Washington. So Isn't that amazing? And the fact that I haven't really sung for a very long time as a senior minister, I took on many other mantles of responsibility. And so the fact that this invitation came, I went to look through my library and I found a song that if anyone were to ask me what was the most meaningful cover song, one that you didn't write that spoke to the masses so quickly, and I'm going to see if you remember this. It was written by a woman named Libby Roderick. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. If you know it, sing with me. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. Again. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. My soul, my soul. That was an oldie, but a classic. So thank you so much for letting me share that, and thank you for joining me. And again, yay to technology for allowing me to travel the ethers and to be with you this morning. I loved the meditation prior to the service and the topic that Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith offered to us about abundance, about prosperity. And so much of that hinders upon focus, as you know. We teach in our philosophy and in our spiritual path that which we recognize and focus on must expand. It's basic physics, but it's also the spiritual law by which we build this construct of our life that helps us to become more mindful. And often, like that song, how can anyone ever tell you that you were less than beautiful, that you were less than anything, is part of the curriculum of the human experience because it comes at us. And we collect those things, mostly unconsciously. And as we begin to collect those things, there are the veils that the Hindus called Maya, those veils of forgetfulness. And it is in the practice of the recognition, it is in the practice of the focus that we return back to not something that has left us, but something that has been there all along. And that's what mindfulness does. That's what the conscious recognition, the conscious pausing and reflection and remembering of the plenitude of life, the divine design that never wavers. That's a part of why we are here, is to remember that we are a part of that infinite potentiality. And when I think about story, and I think about the power of story, the power of metaphor and allegory and parable, I have to go way, way, way back to my theology days, because there is one biblical narrative to me that creates such potency. And I bet you know this story. In the Old Testament, there were prophets, but the one prophet, Elisha, was a prophet of great compassion and great discernment. And if you know the story of the woman and the oil, let me set it up for you. So there is this woman who is recently widowed, and she is in great despair over losing her love, her husband, but compounded with that particular despair is the great debt that his death has left the family. And if you study the actions of that time, what the government would do is that they would come and they would claim things. They would take possessions. And the only thing that this widow really had was her beloved sons. It was as if her entire world was now dependent, now that the husband is gone, on these sons to be able to care for her in her advanced age, to be able to help her survive and to create a life beyond the death of her beloved. And now the fear, compounded with the despair of losing her husband, was that the government would come and confiscate her own children. So imagine this level of forgetfulness. Imagine the normalcy that we have when we forget, that erupts in the expression of despair. So here she is in this, and along comes the prophet Elisha. She recognizes him. She notes that he is a holy man, and she cries out to him, Elisha, Elisha, help. You are a prophet. You are a wisdom keeper. You know, please intercede for me. And Elisha, in his compassion and his discernment, allows the woman to tell her story, allows her to get her despair vocalized. And then when he sees a window of opportunity, he pauses, and in recognition of her journey, he then says asks a simple question, and that is, tell me what you have. Show me what you have. So there is a conscious disruption now in the narrative and in the energy. Much the same as we've talked about before, it's the simple act of recognition. So he's assisting her in disrupting this vibration of despair now, and he is inviting her to recognize what she has. And I believe in the perfection and the divine design of the universe, that whispered invitation, that is whispered question, is constantly there for us to say, tell me what you have. Tell me what you have. Show me what you have. In other words, disrupt the wavelength of the forgetfulness and the despair. It's not about bypassing it. It's not about burying it. It's like, for a moment, give pause. We can go back to it if we want to. But for a moment, give pause, look around, and as we would say in the old Christian church, count your blessings. So he's saying to this woman, tell me what you have. And so she looks around and she says, all that I have is a little bit of oil. You have to remember that oil, olive oil in those days, was very much like currency. Not only did you cook with it, but you bathed with it, you adorned it. It was like a part of your portfolio, if you will. And she says, all that I have is a little bit of oil. And he said, okay, what I want you to do is I want you and your sons to go around to your entire neighbors, your area, and go door to door, and I want you to collect as many pots as many containers as you can and bring them back here. We know where the story's going, but I want you to pause for a moment and now think about this dynamic. So not only is he disrupting this thought of despair, now he's asking her to take her shame. Because you see, in those days, to have that level of debt was like a badge of shame that you wore in that particular society. Now he's invoking her to take this thing called shame and to allow vulnerability to dissolve it by going door to door to the people who know that she's in debt. To go and not hide out, but to, in her vulnerability, ask. Because it is only in the asking, it is only in the ability to request prayerfully, vocally, in our human exchange, it is only then, ask and you shall receive. She must now set aside the forgetfulness of her beauty and go door to door and to ask to be able to have or borrow these containers. And so the story shows and tells us that indeed she does. She goes door to door, right? And her sons bring back every pot, every container that they can physically carry. And then the beauty of law and the way that law works is that when we provide a receptacle, when we provide the container for something new, when we make space for that which is the abundant nature of the universe, when we make space for that which is prosperous and unlimited, then it can pour itself into that spaciousness, So it's kind of like if you and I walk around like this, with our fist in the air. If we leave a situation like this, then whatever situation we walk back into, we enter like this. And it's as if we have to learn energetically, are we approaching life? Are we saying, I want more, but we're approaching that request like this? We must begin to humble ourselves. We must allow ourselves to be vulnerable and to be in receivership of that which is there. So the widow does that, and she comes back, and then what does Elisha do? He takes the little bit that she has, and he begins to pour. He takes the little bit that may be classified as insignificant, and he makes it significant. He takes what might be considered intangible and makes it tangible. So are you starting to see now that there is no such thing as insignificance, because everything contributes to the significance. Everything that is considered intangible or unimportant leads to the overall abundant nature of that. I've often heard it said that how you and I do anything is how we do everything. And if we begin to create sort of a dualistic framework in our minds that this is insignificant and only this is significant, these people don't matter, but these people do, and so we start to groom ourselves from the human perspective and get sort of trapped into an elitism, if you will, or trying to keep up or creating false identities to try to be something we're not. Rather than allowing the purity of our vulnerability to not only serve, reach, love this sector of society, including ourselves, as well as this. And so there's no favoritism in the universe. There's no favoritism with the doling out, if you will, of the already having received abundance of the universe. It's a matter of providing the space to do it, even in the most insignificant. It reminds me too of the story of the widow with the 2 mites. Here she goes and she brings her offering to the temple, and then here are all these well-to-do men who come in with their bags and boast at, look at what I'm doing. And the sages teach that the most profound gift there was the widow and her contribution. So nothing that you offer is insignificant. Nothing that any of us has ever done robs us of our significance. And when we allow ourselves to take our shame, our fears, and we bring them door to door in the vulnerability of the world, and we show who we are, then what is intangible can begin to pour that tangibility into the expression of us. And so when we hear things like, there's more than enough, when we hear things like, we live in a world of abundance, when we hear things about the divine design, none of those things can be learned through books. None of those things can be intellectualized. As we've come to realize in human form, they must be embodied. They must be developed through experience. And no one can embody or develop that experience for us. We get to do it ourselves. And so the way that that happens, the way that that which is the intangible can continue to pour into our tangibility, is by making space for it, by bringing willingly the containers of our willingness, by allowing us to remember how beautiful we are, by ceasing to identify with our faults, by ceasing to identify other people by their faults, by noticing the way sometimes that we will concretize others because of the history, and realizing that perhaps we also concretize ourselves. We lock ourselves into a framework of who we might think that we are. And so when Elisha tells us, show me what you have, tell me what you have, it's a spiritual offering for you and I every single day to look at what's working, to count our blessings, that old-fashioned practice of counting our blessings, so that we can begin to move into what some of the early mystics called high noticing. We can begin to move into that space where we notice the continual flow. What does that look like? When a kindness is expressed to us, when a helping hand is offered us. And when we can begin to notice that and not deflect it, then we become receptive like the widow, and that oil can continue to pour and to pour and to pour. And it's something then we can't learn intellectually, we must experience it. And so the power of receiving goes hand in hand with the power of giving. There's a great book by the title, The Power of Receiving, written by a woman named Amanda Owen. And one of the things that caught me so greatly in that book is she said that people who don't know how to receive attract people who don't know how to give. Stopped me in my tracks. Because she was explaining that in this human experience, we have celebratory archetypes for the giver. We talk about the selfless giver. We talk the people who give are the ones who get their names on the sides of buildings. The people who give are the ones that are recognized and awarded. She goes, there's no award for the best receiver. And she goes, and still both of those things go hand in hand. They work in tandem. And so if you're struggling, like so many of us are during this time, because it's easy to get seduced into the veil of Maya, into the veil of forgetfulness. If you are forgetting, then one of the best ways I think that we can bring our available pots to the ever-flowing abundance of that oil is to practice receiving. Is to notice that when someone offers us something, we say, oh, that's okay. Is to notice how we turn down an invitation, we turn down something because for whatever reason, we just have this difficulty branching out beyond our comfort zone. But the practice of saying yes. I love in the book, Amanda Owen writes, she goes, if you have a really hard time accepting things and people are offering things, she goes, just say yes and figure it out later. I loved that because what it does is it helps move the mark a little bit, into greater degrees. And and so this idea of if we don't know, people who don't know how to receive, people who have created this archetype, if you will, of self-sufficiency, then that archetype does not allow for the expansion. And so I think that this is a balm. I think that this is a soothing practice that you and I can begin to incorporate during this time, is to practice receiving, practice saying thank you, practice not only doing that, but then in the reciprocation, doing it without any attachment. And begin to notice, move into a state of high noticing how environment, how circumstances begin to change. Note whatever the oil is that begins to drop down and to begin to fill the spaciousness that you and I have provided. Back in Atlanta last week, I was inspired by a neighbor when I looked across his backyard fence. He had very intentionally created this block where he planted all of these wildflowers. And so over time, as they begin to grow and grow, then they just blossomed out. And I, in the meantime, had planted on my side of the fence a small garden. I had put some squash in there. The squash started traveling, and the squash had these magnificent yellow blooms, as you might know if you garden. And so between his wildflowers and my squash blossoms, there was this haven of bee activity. And it was amazing to go out in the early morning and to sit with my feet in the dewed grass and to watch the activity of these bees. And yet I thought, if he hadn't been intentional, if he hadn't made space and opened himself up by saying yes, by putting those seeds of the wildflowers, if I hadn't been intentional in planting those beginning gardens, then I would have not encountered the blessing, the pollination, the benefit of those bees. I can't just go in my backyard and sit and wish that bees would come, right? And so now I was wishing for hummingbirds, because when I lived in California all of those years, they were so plentiful. I had a fountain in my front yard. I had some fuchsia, and they would dive bomb the fountain, and they would bathe, and they would drink from the fuchsia. And every morning it was just like a big hummingbird show. And so being in the East, being in Atlanta, I was missing that. And so I ordered some wildflower seed like he did, and I went to my front, and I put some here and there. And they began to grow, and they got waist high before any flowers started to bloom. But once they did start to bloom, I was out there and I was remembering, I was wishing, I love the bees, but man, I would love to see a hummingbird. And that wish, the spaciousness of creating, the act of putting the flower there, guess what? Vroom, there it came. And the branch of the wildflower was so bendy that its feeding activity was making the flower and it dance. And then all of a sudden, just to make its point, it came right up to me and hovered for about a good 3 seconds before off it went. And if you know anything about the totem of a hummingbird, it's a reminder of the sweetness of life. That's what they're there. They represent not only resilience and energy, but the resilience and the energy behind the sweetness of life. And it was as if the hummingbird was saying, don't forget. How could anyone ever tell you that there was anything but the sweetness of life? How could anyone tell you that you were less than deserving, that you were less than beautiful for receiving the sweetness of life? But what must we do? What is our responsibility? We must begin to recognize the sweetness of life. We must begin to cultivate our own sort of willing wildflower, if you will. We must begin to plant that ability and willingness to consciously, daily recognize what it is that we do have. Because it is so easy to default to the other side. It is so easy to default into the forgetfulness, to be seduced by global events, to be seduced into the news, to be seduced into the fear that percolates. And it's not about making any of that wrong. It's about understanding that when you are a lighthouse, when you are a conscious being, when you come off of the mountain staring at your navel going Om, you come down off of the mountain for a reason, and it is to bring that light, it is to bring that remembrance into this human experience. Not by making it wrong, but by standing in your power, by remembering what it is that you do have, not by lecturing someone and telling them that they're doing it wrong, but by standing in your power and loving them and expressing the sweetness of life. And how you do that is the way that you do that. And how someone else does that is the way that they do that. And do you see that that becomes our brand of advocacy? It isn't about not participating. It's about advocating with vision. So you remember, do you remember when Susan was reading about Michael Beckwith? I heard Michael say many, many years ago, and he said, if you march into a systemic issue like this, you will only create more of this. But when you march into the systemic issue, which we all must with a vision, not only will you sustain that, but you will become what a true visionary is. Someone who, through devotion, reminds everyone of the sweetness of life. And you know what's amazing about committing our lives to being a visionary? Is that there's no finish line. When we advocate for equity, when we advocate for justice, when we advocate for those things, there is no finish line to that. But if we can advocate in congruency with the sweetness of life, then all of the days of being on this planet, we will continue to move that vision into greater and greater spaciousness so that more equity can pour in, so that more justice can pour in. And we do that through our example. And so that thing about significant, insignificant, sometimes we fall back to the idea, well, it's just me, so it doesn't matter. Oh, my friend, it matters. What you do in your own world of devotion matters. It matters greatly. My first teacher was Louise Hay. If you know who Louise Hay was, profound influence on our planet with regards to self-affirming and loving the self. She was my first teacher. And I was in a trio in the early days when she was getting started. We called ourselves Alliance, and I was given the sweetness of life by being able to travel with her when I was young and in my 20s and just self-absorbed and unconscious. And I would be in a van with this woman who would end up changing the landscape of the world. And I wanted to be an actor so bad. And I was in LA to be an actor, and I was so obnoxious because I would have to ask the van driver to please pull over so I can call my agent. Please pull over so I can call my agent. It was before cell phones. Yes, very old. Uh, and so in that thing, they would pull over and I'd call my agent. And I remember one time there was a big job and I was the second choice. And I was devastated. And I moped and came back onto that van and I sat next to Louise and I started this unconscious diatribe about if I'd only been born in a different family, if I'd only had this, if I'd only had that, my life would be different. And that wasn't the first time that I had gone off in that tangent. But I think it was the last time that Louise, like Elisha, had had enough. And she took her manicured nails and she dug them into my knee very lovingly. And she said, oh, honey, don't you know you have to honor the entirety of your journey? You have to honor the entirety of your journey because it is all of that that got you to where you are today. And I can still hear her after all this time telling me that. I can still feel her, the claw marks in my knee. And it goes hand in hand, doesn't it, with tell me what you have. We're only effective as recognizing the abundance around us if we can honor every single thing that got us to where we are. If we can resolve our shame. When we can resolve our shame and go door to door with opened hearts to receive, then the sweetness of life has a much easier access, doesn't it? And so today I just leave you with this idea that you are enough. You are light. You are love. You are everything. There is no amount of veils, there is no amount of covering that will ever take that away. And we are not here to learn anything. We are here to unlearn and remove all of those veils. And so I wanted to leave you with a song, something up, joyous and fun about being the light and being the life and being the love. And so I don't know if you've ever heard of the Posse Awards. When I was, it's like a Grammys for positive music that they do for a lot of New Thought artists. So it's really beautiful, something that was created by some individuals out of Florida. And in my recording years, it was great that this song got nominated. So let me see here. I love that I'm doing all of this activity. Let's see, not yet. I am the life, you are the life, we are the life. Oh, Yahweh. Sing that with me. I am the life, you are the life, we are the life. Oh, Yahweh. It's the life. I am the life, you are the life, we are the life. Oh, Yahweh. I am the life, you are the life, we are the life. Oh, Yahweh. And we let this life be all it can be. Let the whole world see possibility. Trust and let it lead every single day. Every move we make, hand in hand we play with spirit. I am the light, you are the light, we are the light. Oh Yahweh. So I am the light. I am the light, you are the light, we are the light. Oh Yahweh. I am the light, you are the light, we are the light. Oh Yahweh. I am the light. I am the light, you are the light, we are the light. Oh Yahweh. And we let this light be all it can be. Let the whole world see possibility. Trust and let it lead every single day. Every move we make, hand in hand we play with spirit. I am the love, you are the love, we are the love. Oh Yahweh. I am the love, you are the love, we are the love. Oh Yahweh. I am the love, you are the love, we are the love. Oh Yahweh. I am the love, you are the love, we are the love. Oh Yahweh. And we let this love, and we let this love be all it can be. Let the whole world see possibility. Trust and let it lead every single day. Every move we make, hand in hand we play with spirit. I am the life, you are the life, we are the light. I am the light, you are the light, we are the light. I am the love, you are the love, we are the love. Go back to life. I am the life, you are the life, we are the light. The light. I am the light, you are the light, we are the light. And let's end it with love. I am the love, you are the love, we are the love. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for letting me be with you this Sunday. Blessings right now from Michigan.
Thank you, Reverend David. That was such a blessing this morning. You have not only blessed us here in the Puget Sound, we've been joined by people in Tennessee and California and Denmark and Virginia. That's people that I know have been able to share this message. This is the time in their service when we stay in the high consciousness of the abundance of this universe. Pardon me. Keeping in mind our having open hands and open hearts, we get a blessed unity of Bellevue with our love offerings and tithes. And in that consciousness of giving and receiving, please join me in the offering affirmation. Please join me. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is.
And so now we open our hearts, filling them with gratitude, opening them even more to receiving, feeling that gratitude pulse like hummingbird wings throughout our being. With all of our hearts, we give thanks and we bless these tithes and love offerings, knowing they will be used in alignment with the highest and best divine order. We align our community with divine order and our own lives, affirming that all will be used for transformation here, transformation around the Puget Sound, and transformation around the world. We are blessed, and we intend to be a blessing. We are so grateful. And so it is. Welcome, everyone. My name is Monica McDowell-Elvig. I'm your center administrator. If you are joining with us for the first time virtually, we welcome you. We are so glad you are here to Unity of Bellevue online. We open our hearts to you, and we are your sacred friends, and we invite you into this space every week and to all of our online offerings that we offer throughout the week. The best way to stay on top of everything that we're offering right now online is to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter. You can do that by going to our website, unityofbellevue.org, and at the bottom of every page is a sign-up sheet for that newsletter. We invite you to fill that out. And we also invite you to reach out to us in some other way with a phone call, an email, or on social media so that we know who you are and we can start connecting with you. We'd love to know you. Some of the online offerings that we are offering this week are, we have the Wednesday Community Connect every week at 1 p.m. on Wednesday. We are informally checking in with each other to see how we're doing during this global pandemic path that we're walking, and to help us stay focused on spiritual principles and practices during this time. That's a Zoom meeting, and you can find the link on our website, unityofbellevue.org/launch, or click on the link for Sunday and online gatherings, and that will get you to that page where the link is. This week, we also have a breathwork practice group. That's this Tuesday evening from 7 to 7:30. I'll be leading us in breathwork. There's no experience required, and that is by love offering. If you would like to join us for that, register. The registration link is on our website under events and classes and workshops, and we'd love to have you join us for this last breathwork practice group of the summer. We have a regional conference coming up in September. That is coming up at the end of September, or towards the end of September. There's more details on our website. There's a link in the newsletter that you can find out. We'll have a bigger announcement later, but just go to our website, look under events, or you can click on the link on the newsletter that we send out, and that has all of the information about registering for all of that online conference. Prayer chaplains today will be holding a virtual prayer circle after service. If you have any prayer requests, you can always email them directly to prayerchaplains@unityofbellevue.org, or you can go to our website to the prayer page and fill out the prayer request form. If you would like one of the prayer chaplains to call you in your prayer request, just put that in the message that you would like one of them to call you, either to pray or to talk with you, and one of them will reach out to you. If you would like to stay on for prayer after the celebration service is over, just stay on the Zoom meeting here, and everyone else will log off. We'll stop the live stream, and Susan Neidig and Jan Kalin will lead everyone in prayer. There is a request by the census, the US Census, to just remind everybody to go to census.gov and fill that out if you have not, to make sure that everybody counts, that everybody is counted. That helps everyone. So just a reminder, they're asking churches to remind their membership. And we have one other announcement. It is going to be Jean. Jean, just unmute yourself, and you know what? You might not be able to because you're not a co-host. So let me just make sure that Jean can unmute herself. There we go.
Okay, I think it worked.
Yep.
Awesome. So just a reminder, everybody, tomorrow is the last day to submit recipes for our Divine Dining Famous Family Favorites Cookbook. So for those of you that may not know the whole story, what we're doing is we're putting together a cookbook that we will sell later this year as a fundraiser, and just in time for Christmas presents, that kind of thing. but we have a couple of different phases to it. So the first phase of this is those recipes that you rank as super special to you. You have a favorite story that goes along with it, a tradition that goes along with it. Maybe it's just super, super good in the whole community and food thing. Then rank it as 1, 2, or 3 when you submit your recipe, and we're going to have a bake-off. So in the privacy of your own home, you'll get to try some of the recipes in the cookbook, not all, but the best, some of the best of the best, and then you'll be able to vote on them. So that deadline for submitting those best of the best is tomorrow, so get your recipes in. I did put a URL in the chat, copy out of that, or you can just send it directly to Monica. There are several different categories that you can submit for. I've also put that in the chat, but please, please, as the Reverend said today, everything you do matters. Nothing is insignificant. So don't think that your recipe is not good enough. It is absolutely good enough. Submit it. We want it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean. And we just want to give a final thank you to everyone for participating in the service, particularly Reverend David. Thank you so much for sharing your heart and soul with that message of receiving and sharing that with us. That was a beautiful, vibrant, joyful message. So we are so glad that you were here to share your message and your music with us. Thank you. You blessed us today. We thank you to Susan Neidig for leading the meditation service and also for co-leading today, for Rita for being our board host, for Sabrina, you may not know, Sabrina is hosting this service and running things her first time, so we're so grateful for that. She's also put up the Unity Kids online experience on our Facebook page, so be sure to check that out. Her new online experience is up. And we are so grateful to Becca again for putting everything together for this great speaker singer series we're having right now. Everybody, let's close out with our prayer for protection. And there it is. Please join me. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thanks, everyone. Have a blessed week. If you're not going to join for the prayer circle, we just ask you to log off in the next couple of minutes, and the prayer circle will be starting in a few. Thanks, everyone.
Oh yeah. Come on. All right, all right, all right. All right, all right, all right. Yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. One life living is you and me. Yeah. One light shining is you and me. Yeah. One love loving is you and me. 'Cause God is all there is. All right. One life living as you and me. Yeah. One light shining as you and me. Oh. One love loving as you and me. 'Cause God is all there is. I'm shining from the inside out. I'm so happy. I just want to shout. Oh. One life living as you and me. Yeah. One light shining as you and me. Oh. One love loving as you and me. 'Cause God is all there is. Hold it down. One life living as you and me. Yeah. One light shining as you and me. Oh. One love loving as you and me. 'Cause God is all there is. I'm shining from the inside out. I'm so happy. I just want to shout. One life living as you and me. Yeah. One light shining as you and me. Oh. One love loving as you and me. 'Cause God is all there is. One life living